Today we're going to talk about color grading because I have been getting so many questions from you asking if I can do a video about color grading, and here we are. I'm just gonna see here. No? Okay. No. Oh yeah. So color grading is one of those things that I think is really important to make your footage look really professional and really cinematic looking. And if you're shooting in a flat color profile such as S-Log2 or S-Log3, then you really need to color grade your footage before you use it in a vlog or in a video or anything like that, because otherwise it will look really washed out. Like this. When I first started doing color grading, I was really scared of the whole process because it seems so big, you know, everything is really foreign and you don't really know what to do, but that is something that you will get into really fast. And the absolute biggest mistake that I see people do is that they drag down the shadows or just increase the highlights, and that will give you some really bad looking footage even though you might think it looks good. I was like that in the beginning because I was when I was color grading my footage, I basically did like that, and then I was like, you know what, that looks really good, but no, it didn't. So there's a bunch of different plugins and programs that you can use to do your color grading in, depending on what kind of editing program that you have. And personally, I'm using Final Cut Pro X, and I usually use the plugin called Color Finale Pro. But the guys over at Color Grading Central, they actually reached out to me, which is completely awesome, and asked me if I want to try the latest software, which is called Cinemagrade. And since I'm an avid user of Color Finale Pro, I thought, why not? And the cool thing is that you can use it for either Adobe Premiere or Final Cut Pro. So it's not locked to Final Cut Pro or Adobe Premiere. So I shot this sequence together with my buddy Oscar in one of my latest videos where he plays around with some smoke grenades, which was really cool. That sequence turned out really good, by the way. But as you saw, that sequence is color graded because it was shot in S-Log2, and it would have looked something like this if I didn't color grade it. So I'm gonna remove all the color grading that I've done to that footage, and I thought you and I would do this together so that you can see all the different steps that I take to get the footage to look the way that I want it to look. So right now we got the finished clip here on the timeline. Everything is edited and done, but we haven't done any kind of color grading to it. So this is just the raw footage straight out of the camera. And if you want to see the exact settings that I used when I was shooting this sequence, then I'm going to put all the different settings to that picture profile down below. So the first thing we want to do is go to the effects panel and type in Cinemagrade, and then we want to drag this onto our first clip. And we are going to choose this frame to work from, and then we're going to go up here and we're going to press open controls. The cool thing about Cinemagrade is that it is really intuitive when you are working with the color grading. So here on the right, we got the exposure, highlight, midtones, shadows, contrast, pivot, and then you got the color, temperature, tint, then you have saturation and the different vectors, which means that the process that I did when I was using Color Finale is something that I don't have to do anymore because I got all the different sliders that I need to use here on the right. And the first thing that I usually do is drag down the mid-tones of the video, because then you can see that we get some detail back in the shot. And then I want to drag up the highlights to make it a bit brighter. So I'm going to drag it somewhere up here. And then we can go up, we can adjust the exposure, drag this up to make it a bit brighter. And then we can drag down the shadows just a bit to -10 should do it. And I think the color temperature can be dragged down a little because now it looks a little bit too warm. So we can drag it down somewhere around here. And then we can increase the saturation of the clip to +12. And then I go to the vectors panel down here, and then I adjust the hue and drag it towards the right to give it a more red tone. And this is something that is going to be a matter of personal taste, but I think it looks really good when you have that like tiny feeling of teal and orange. I think it looks really, really good. Gotta say it, you know, sorry about that, but I am a fan of the teal and orange. So I drag that up slightly towards the right. And then we can go into the blues and we can drag down the saturation to remove some of the saturations off his jeans. And then we can choose the Luma and drag it up just a little bit. So if we look at the before and after, we can see that there's a huge difference already to our footage. And I'm actually kind of satisfied right there. So we're gonna hit apply. So now we want to add this to our next clip as well. So we're going to hit Command C, and then we're going to go to our next clip, and then we're going to hit Command Shift V. And then we just want to make sure that we paste in the effects and not the transform or anything else. So we're going to hit paste. And looking here, we can see that this looks a little bit blown out. So we're going to do some slight adjustments to this clip. So we're going to hit Open Controls. And then we're gonna go to the right here to take out this panel, and then we're gonna drag down the highlights a little bit, somewhere around here. We can drag down the exposure as well to see how it looks. Nope, we're gonna leave the highlights as is. And then we can drag down the shadows just a little bit to give it a little bit more contrast look to somewhere around there. And then before and after, we can see there's a huge difference. And I actually think it looks really good. So we're gonna hit apply, and then we're gonna do the same once again. We're gonna hit Command C, and then we're gonna go to drone clip. And this is where the fun thing happens, because the drone clip and the Sony clip is two different kind of color profiles. So we're gonna have to try our best to match these two clips together. So we're gonna hit Command Shift V to paste the cinema grade effect in. And we want to make sure that we don't add anything else than just the effect cinema grade. Paste, and then we scroll all the way till the drone is somewhere around here, and then we open the controls. So what is cool with cinema grade is that we can do something that is called a shot matching, and that basically means that we can choose two clips and have them side by side to see if we can actually match the color grading of our shots. And this, with Oscar, like the speed ramp going back, is gonna be the hero shot for this matching. And then we're gonna hit match shots up here to the right. And as you can see, like there's a bit of a difference in the shots, and we want to try to make the drone shot look as close as we can get it to this shot. So we're gonna drag down the exposure because it is way overexposed. And then we're gonna go down to the yellows. We're gonna drag these up to somewhere around here, so we get that orange feeling that Oscar has in the background. And then we're gonna scroll back up, and we're gonna drag up the shadows, and then we're gonna change the color temperature so you can make it a bit warmer because it's warm outside. And we're gonna drag down the tint, so somewhere around there should be fine. And then we can drag down the saturation on the highlights to somewhere around here. And then we can scroll back up again, and we can drag down the highlights a little bit more. And then we can scroll down again, and we can reduce the saturation of the yellow. So looking at before and after, we can see that there's a huge difference that cinema grade does to our drone shot. And it feels way more matching to the clip that we have shot with the Sony a7 III. What I want to do here is I want to change the smoke to be a little bit darker and a little bit more blue. What you can do here in cinema grade is really, really cool, because we can go up here to this, and then we can just mark the smoke right here. We're gonna set a little crosshair here, and then you can drag up and down and change the hue, which is really, really cool. So we're gonna drag this down to make it a bit more blue, somewhere around there. That should be dope. And if you want to adjust the saturation of the smoke or the crosshair, then you can hold down Shift and you can drag this up so you can make it more intense. And then you can hold down CMD to adjust the luma of the smoke, so you can make it darker or more bright. But we're gonna keep it as somewhere around here, I think. And that looks really good. So looking at before and after, you can see that there's huge difference in the shot. And when you paste the effect onto your other clips, you're gonna notice that the exposure is different, or maybe the shadows are a bit too crushed or something like that. But they just gotta go in and tweak the different clips depending on what kind of lighting setting that you have and what kind of mood you want to have in the shot. So when I'm color grading my videos, I basically go shot by shot and copying the effect from the last shot that I graded onto the next one, and then adjust that depending on what kind of look I want so that it fits all the way through. I'm just gonna finish this up and I'll show you the final result. And that is basically how I color grade all of my footage. Maybe for a client, or maybe it's here in the office doing a tutorial, or me just having a good time with smoke grenades together with my buddy Oscar. It's basically the same kind of process that I use for all of my videos. So I highly recommend you to try out the plugin Cinema Grade because it's really intuitive and I really like the way it works. It is really easy to make your footage look really, really good. So I really hope that you found this video useful, and if you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up because it does help a lot. And if you haven't subscribed yet, that'd be really appreciated as well. So thank you for that, and until next time, take care, and as we say in Gothenburg, my computer is really loud when I am recording the screen and fiddling around with Final Cut Pro. Oh, maybe I should buy like a Mac Pro and ruin myself.